Ephesians 5 and basically said I would commit my life to you and die for you.
Being mindful of like bringing these moments to God and like actively like praying.
Now we living together and it's all this stuff popping up that is like, oh, this is when the classic, she changed. All right, what's going on, everyone? Welcome back to another episode of Bolden Matrimony. Hope you all are well. I'm Robert Bolden, and to my right, I have my beautiful wife,
Kori Bolden.
And today we're just going to start at the genesis of how we met. Before we dive into it, though, just wanted to say welcome. We got some new people who have decided to tap in with us, which is awesome. Always happy to have new family. I checked the numbers on stuff, so just wanted to throw it out there that one thing that I noticed that I was happy about is that our audience is pretty much equally divided, a little bit tilted towards women, but pretty much about 50-50 male, awesome. Female. So that's a great thing on YouTube. Mm-hmm. But I did notice that the people who consume our content, only 10% actually subscribed. So we did set a personal goal at the end of Q1 to have 1,000 subscribers. Yes. So you will be doing us a favor if you have consumed our content, like our content, appreciate our content. Why don't you go ahead and just hit the button, the little bell, so you get the notifications, all of that good stuff, and that will help us out tremendously. So again, welcome. Big shout out to you guys for that.
And we're currently like 3.
I think it was like 3:30 or something like that. So
it's gradually increasing. It's pretty cool to see the channel grow and y'all rocking with us. So
yeah, absolutely. So very good. So we're going to talk about how we met and how things were when we met. More so speaking of like where we were in our lives, what we were focusing on, and how things flowed from there. So to start the conversation, why don't we just start there? Give a description of how we met. This is like, I always enjoy this story. So yeah.
Yeah. So should we start where we were kind of before we met a little bit?
Yeah. Yep. I think that's a good idea.
So from my perspective, and I believe we have a video where we kind of touched on this, like where we were, but so Rob and I met in 2018. We met at work. Neither one of us worked there anymore, but before that, like the end of 2017, pretty much all of 2017, I was in a very interesting point in my life where I was like at the tail end of a relationship, like on and off, on again, off again relationship that had gone on for like 4 years. So at the time I was 27 and I was, not having a great time with work, where I was at the job that I was at before I met Rob. And the relationship I was in, it was very unhealthy. We were both unhealthy for one another. And at the end of 2017, I honestly had gotten to a very low point where I was like having some very dark thoughts. And I'll just say that. So I think that was my breaking point where I was like, something has to change, because over the course of like my 20s and like early adulthood, late teens, early 20s, I had just been kind of going through the same patterns, and we have a video on toxic relationship patterns and just personal patterns that we cycles and things that we went through in our lives before we met each other. And one of the main things for me was like the relationships, the men, the behaviors, the perspectives that I had about myself and just the people that I was in relationship with. And so towards the end of 2017, going into 2018, I made a very conscious decision that like I need to just focus on myself. I need to focus on like reconnecting with God, like just getting into a stable, like, type of mindset. Have a flow, and like just focus on just being content and learning who I am. And so that's where I was before I met Rob. Things started happening towards the end of 2017 where I wound up getting a new job, getting a job offer, and I started the new job at the on January 2nd. So literally at the top of 2018, I was in a new job. I was just feeling good. I was feeling very like grateful, and I was doing these. I had set monthly goals for myself, like just different challenges. I called them personal challenges or self challenges. Where like January, I think, was like no social media. February was journaling every day. March was no meat or dairy. And then this is like right before I met Rob, when I'm working out on the elliptical, and I'm like, doing my little workout flow.
That's how you was.
Just in the morning on the elliptical in the basement. Yep. Just like that. And God, the Holy Spirit was like, right before March started, it was like, and no dating. And I'm like, and it was like a gut punch. Like, what? Did I just hear that correctly? And so I always say, when God speaks to me, it's not like vocal, like how we're talking, but it's like an inner knowing, and it's like a nudge. That's the best way I can describe it. And it came out of nowhere, and I'm just like, okay, I knew that it wasn't for me because it was so out of left field, and it was just like, no dating. So there were a couple guys that I was talking to at the time, nothing serious, just kind of like hanging out or whatever. And I felt this conviction so strongly that I called both of them, and I was like, I can't talk to you for the whole much. Like,
that's literally how you did it.
I was like, I can't talk to you.
Did they ask why?
Yeah. And I was like
Papa told me.
I didn't say, see, at that point in my life, I was not very vocal about like the stuff that I'm vocal about now when it comes to God. But I was just like, I'm setting a personal challenge for myself, and like, I said something of that nature, and they were very confused, and one of them took it pretty personally. But I was just like, this is what I just gotta do. So
that was the first step in obedience, which is a good thing.
Yeah, because it was definitely God leading me in that direction. So yeah, so I was not dating. I was not, I was just living my life, and then in March, mind you, I had been working at this company for 3 months at this point, never saw Rob a day in my life. And towards the end of March, I see this. I'm in the break room, just fixing me some tea.
That's how she works out, as well as how she fixes her tea. So
yes,
just know that.
So I'm fixing me some tea. I look to my left, see this dude in this pea coat getting on the elevator, and I'm like, who is that? And I had a friend who also worked at the same company who worked, and I saw the department that you were coming out of. So I knew which department you worked in, and my friend worked in that same department. So I texted him, and he was like he was like my high school boyfriend. Yeah. But,
we played like, he went to a local high school here where we played basketball against each other. And I knew him pretty well too, which is pretty crazy.
Yeah. So we so I text him, and I'm like, yo, and he's like married with 3 kids, and but we always like remain friends. And I text him, I said, yo, it's this dude who just got on the elevator, like 6'4", brown skin,
my whole profile,
like giving him the whole rundown. And so then he sent me a picture of him, and he's like, is this who you talking about? And I was like, yeah. And then he was like, oh yeah, he's a solid dude. Like he played football. He was really big in football and blah, blah, blah. Kind of gave me the rundown. All I needed was his name to like go and like find him.
I don't know
on
why.
Facebook.
Y'all check me on this, but like when women find stuff like this, it seems to me, this is just Rob speaking, my personal opinion, they turn into the FBI. Like they can find stuff that you would never think they would find.
Yeah.
But I didn't mean to cut you off. Go ahead.
No, you're absolutely right, because that's exactly why I turned into the FBI. And I was like, who is this guy? So I kid you not, I go on Facebook, I find him on Facebook, and mind you, it's still March, so I'm still like, I can't date him, I can't talk to him, but I can do a little research. So I like find him on Facebook, and he has this profile picture with his, y'all see how big my beautiful eyes my husband has, and he has this picture with these big, just staring in the camera, his big beautiful eyes, just looking so kind.
That was the one at Penn State?
No,
that wasn't it yet.
No, it wasn't that. I'll show you. But anyway, I'm like, and instantly this thought just pops into my mind, and I'm like, he looks like he could be my husband. He looks like my husband. And we talk about this in the Breaking.
Yeah, if you haven't checked it out already, we'll link it.
Breaking Toxic Relationship Patterns. Yeah,
for sure.
So I was like, nah, Kori, don't start getting into that fairy tale mode or whatever, like trying to predict the future. But the thought just always stayed in the back of my mind. So anyway, wind up going to, my friend invited me to the barrister's ball. Well, no, so April comes.
Oh, your challenge.
Yeah, so my challenge is over. I don't talk to Rob. I just kind of go through his Facebook. I see some things. I'm like, oh, he's drumming. His granddad has a church. I see him drumming at church, and I'm like, okay, drumming for Jesus.
Drumming for Jesus.
So that was a good sign. And then,
oh man, that's funny.
So then, anyway, fast forward April, my friend Bree, shout out Bree. She invited me to this event, like this kind of formal gala, black tie event. So we got all dialed up and dressed up, Bree and I, and went to this ball. And I posted a picture. And at this point, I had friend requested Rob. We were friends on Facebook, and then he liked a couple. He liked a couple of my pictures. Yes, he actually loved hearted. Yeah, that's the difference on Facebook. You can like it, or you can heart it. So I'm like, oh, he hearting pictures. So then it's April. So I slid in his DMs, and I was like, hey, you work at blah blah blah. I think I may have seen you around a couple times. And he like, no, you got the wrong guy.
Yeah, so here's where I have to interject.
I can pass.
Yeah. So here's where I have to interject. So every time people hear this part of the story, they're like, wait, why did you do that? Like, that's so rude or that's so mean. I was being proactive about the situation. If you immediately say, yes, I'm the guy, it's a little bit harder to maintain the conversation. So for me, I felt as though by saying a little joke, playing a little trick, throwing a little humor, whatever, it would be enough to kind of mix the waters and have something that we could sustain. So it worked because I immediately responded again saying like, oh, I'm just playing, like, yeah, I worked there.
And I was like, oh, well, that would have been awkward.
Yeah.
Then we just continue on with the conversation, and I just kind of let him take the lead, and he wound up asking me for my number. Yeah. And then like a week later, we went on our first date, and what was that, 2018? 6 years later,
it's been
we're married. And
that went by fast.
He loves me. He was just so in love with me. And I'm like, who is this girl? Where has she been my whole life? Why didn't I meet her sooner?
Yeah, I said all those things. I said all that. Yeah, that's good. So that's the culmination of it all. So you gave kind of your backstory as well as leading up to when we actually had the first interactions and then start dating. So for me, I was in a spot to where I was still kind of like in college mode, kind of doing my thing.
You were in college mode, but you were like, how many years out of college? Let's clarify that part.
I was quite a bit out of college. I'm not gonna say a specific time, but I was in the mindset of, I'm gonna work, I'm gonna do my thing, I'm gonna make money. But as far as the women, I can't say that I was particularly dead set on just picking one. Don't do it again. But yeah, that's kind of where my mindset was. I wasn't necessarily thinking of dating in the aspect of like marriage. I don't know if we mentioned this in the last video, but when we first started dating, I didn't have to be married. Like that wasn't really my thing. That wasn't something that I kind of had in my mind to like have as a goal. If it happened to happen, this is kind of the dynamic of like family backgrounds. My family, if you do it, great. If you don't, whatever. For your family, typically
everyone is married.
Yeah,
like that's married. The standard in my family. So
yeah. So those dynamics definitely come into play because like for you, that's kind of top of mind, ingrained in your head. Like you said, when you saw me, it was like, this is my husband. And I'm like,
I said, he looks like my husband.
Well, yeah. Clarify that. But for me, I'm just like, yo, like,
she kind of tight.
What's good? So yeah, that played a part. That's kind of where we were in those seasons leading up to, getting to that point. So you were very intentional about leading up to the moment where we met. I was still focused more so on career, not necessarily a particular woman. But we meet, and then things start happening as we spend more time together. Some of the thought patterns that we had begin to, change and things like that. So let's go into that aspect of it. What did your single season kind of teach you as you got to the moment where you met Rob and started dating Rob? What were some of the lessons or things that you really took away that you can look back on now and say like, oh, that was a good takeaway for me, or that was a good thing that I was focused on?
Yeah, that's a good question. It was just I think the main thing was being content, like with who I was, and like not putting so much pressure on myself to like be this person who was only this person to be with a man. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? Like I wanted to learn who I was for myself. I was taking myself out on dates. I was like I was really intentional about having a relationship with myself, but more importantly, like God, like, really getting to know God, and through getting to know God more and having a more sensitive ear and listening to him. And even when I didn't fully understand what was happening, like with the no dating thing, I had no idea what was happening. I just knew that was what God told me to do. And so like really growing in my sensitivity and having a sensitive ear to what he was telling me to do and trusting that. And really, mind you, at this point, I'm still very like weak in my faith.
Yeah.
But
still a baby.
Yeah, still a baby in my faith. And not really having an understanding, and there would take time for that to and still developing. It's never gonna stop. But at that point in my life, I think I would say I really learned how to be content, like with myself. Like I was fine. I was not trying to be with anyone. I wasn't actively looking for a man, or, even the guys that I was hanging out with. It was nothing for me to just be like, all right, I can't talk to you.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, that's good. I think the conversation has kind of shifted to a different area, and I just want to recount the first thing that you said was strengthening your relationship with God. Mm-hmm. And I guess this is kind of just a frame where we're going. Like, what can you be doing now as someone who's dating, who isn't married yet, but hoping to attain that someday? I guess that's kind of the framework of like, what can you be doing right now to prepare or get ready for moving in that direction. And I would back that and say that number one is make sure that relationship with God is rock solid, like you said. So that's really good.
Or at least being intentional about, creating that intimacy in that relationship, because and this could be a whole nother video, but sure. Which we probably will do that. But one thing, and this is what I highlighted in my vows on our wedding day, was that as I'm like preparing, writing my vows, and God highlights to me, like, when God created Eve, after, when he took the rib from Adam and created Eve in Genesis, was that Genesis 3? Genesis 2?
I think
Genesis 2. Yeah.
2 or 3. One.
Yeah, it was 2. God brought Eve to Adam. Mm-hmm. Like he brought her. So, which means that she had to have a personal encounter with God before she even met the man that he created her for. Mm-hmm. So she had to have a personal encounter relationship with her creator. So that in itself was like, that's the framework right there. We got to know God because he's the creator. He's the sustainer of everything. And our relationship with him, honestly, is reflected through our relationships with other people.
Yeah, 100%.
So, yeah.
Yeah, that's really good. And what you said was a very counter-cultural thing in some ways, because there are some women of the belief that they will never approach a man, or they will never slide in his DMs because they're the ones that are supposed to be pursued. But what you're saying is that most times, I'm not saying all the time, most times it could be a case where you may make yourself known.
I think, but I think it's the mindset though, because for me, I'm not pursuing a man. I'm pursuing God, like, to some degree. Like I'm in where I was at that point. I was pursuing something. I was pursuing God, but I was not more so, but the intention was doing something different than what I had been doing. The focus is different. So I would say God wants to be pursued. Like, he wants us to pursue him, and through pursuing him, he will lead us to the man. So
I like how you did that.
Yeah, he will lead us. So we really aren't. Now, it's a difference between that and just desperately chasing after a man out of desperation.
Right.
But, it's a difference between that and actually like pursuing a healthy, whole, like, relationship with God, and we become whole through that, and he leads us when we have an ear to him. He leads us to the person.
Yeah, for sure. And that can be backed biblically. You brought up Eve being brought to Adam.
You see that with Ruth.
Ruth was brought to Boaz. Abigail was brought to David in a way. She went and found him, essentially.
Rebecca was brought to Isaac.
Yeah, so there are some cases to that for sure. And there are some cases where the man is en route somewhere and like at the well. Yeah. There are, I forget who it was. Rachel and Jacob, they're at the well. That one is kind of obscure. I don't know who found who. They just kind of end up at a place. But most times, yes, I believe that is true. When you are set on your relationship with God and truly content in that space that you are with God, he'll lead you down the path of finding what's best for you. Our thoughts are not his thoughts. Our ways are not his ways. But when we submit ourselves to him, he'll make everything that's for us to be known, for sure. So that's pretty good. Some other takeaways. What would you say, from your perspective? What could people be doing right now, outside of number one? What we said is strengthening that relationship with God. Would you add anything else to that for the people?
I would say like focusing on getting to know who you are. Like what do I like to do? What do I, like I said, I was hanging out with myself because one thing about me, I was very like needy and codependent and like I had to have people around me. So that was uncomfortable for me to like go out by myself. I had to learn how to enjoy my own company. And I forgot who said this, but it's like, if you can't enjoy your own company, how do you expect someone else to enjoy
that's it.
Enjoy you? Like, if you can't even enjoy your own company. And so I had to really learn how to enjoy my own company. And, the more that I got, on Valentine's Day that year, I went to a Valentine's Day event by myself. I did a lot of things by myself. I challenged myself, not even, and the mindset again wasn't like on, oh, I need to do this to get a man. Like it was just, I just want to learn how to like myself, like who I am and enjoy being with myself. I would go to events. Like at one point I was very socially awkward where I like shuddered at the thought of even starting a conversation with someone. Small talk was just like nails on the chalkboard to me. So I would continuously like push myself out of my comfort zone. And I would say to that, like, do things that make you uncomfortable. Like, take yourself out. If you don't like doing things alone, try going somewhere alone. Like, of course, be smart, wise, and make sure you're in a
use discernment,
use wisdom and discernment and all that. But yeah, go to a nice restaurant and take yourself out. Treat yourself how you want to be treated.
Yeah. I would add. I don't know if we've said this on every podcast, and I don't know if you've heard it already, but where purpose is unknown, abuse is inevitable. So I would say to the person who's looking to attain like this status or be in covenant, like really understand why and what the purpose of that actually is and what that means for your life. Because people desire to be in this situation, not necessarily knowing what all this situation entails.
Yeah.
It's work. Like it's a lot of work, and we still new, so we still figuring it out just the same as a lot of other people. However, like we see, like there are things that you can prepare for, and there are some things that you just got to go through. And if you haven't necessarily done some of the prerequisites to like make sure that you are locked in and you know who you are and you know God, when you start adding somebody else to the picture, that can kind of make the waters a little murky, right? So to avoid that, I think, whoever it is that you're going to end up with, I think it's a beautiful image that we can just picture in our minds that I'm in this space seeking God. I'm in this space building a relationship with myself and the people around me and just being a good steward of what I have right now. And somewhere else out there, someone else is doing the same thing. And just knowing that the sovereign God who is good will make all of these things work together.
Yeah, because even though you were more so, your mindset was like on career and not really like settling down or like not intentional about the future in that aspect. There were some things that God was doing like your old place where you stayed at. Like when we first started dating, you had literally just furnished and like painted your whole place.
Yeah, I don't know. I just picked up and was like, I'm about to paint and buy a bunch of furniture.
Yeah. So by the time I came over and visited, I was like, oh, he has a nice place. He has like, okay, I'm expecting, I don't know what I was expecting, a bachelor pad. And you was
expecting what it looked like before.
And I was like,
this is why sometimes like we need to vet why get married, because I probably would have been living like that still.
Bro, because he was telling me, he was like, yeah, before I did my place, it was just,
it is what it is.
I was living out of, I don't know. So I don't know what I would have been looking around like, oh no, I don't know about this.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was very well put together, well furnished and decorated. And we actually have like, it's funny because we had the same kind of color schemes and stuff in our like very similar style and taste. So I was like, okay, this is cool.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, he definitely coordinated all of that. I can't say. And I don't know who said it. Maybe it was Darius Daniels. Like, life is lived in the present, but understood in the future. So now looking back on those things, we can understand it clearly and we can see, you know, where God's hands were in it all, even though we couldn't see it at the current time.
Yeah.
So that's the same for everyone else, whether you're dating, whether you're single, like just recognize this moment and take full advantage of it, because like it's not going to be this way always. And if it is, then we have to find contentment in that. Yeah. So, yeah, very good. I don't think there's anything else. Of course, if you enjoyed the video, be sure to like, subscribe. Make sure we subscribe.
Please
get those numbers
up. Yeah, help us reach our 1,000 subscribers.
For sure. But we love you all. Hope this was helpful. Leave a comment if it was, and we will see you on the next one. Peace.
Bye.